there, it's Michelle Gilmartin with A1 Vacuum and Sewing, and today we're going to be going over, in this video we're going to be going over what's in the box of your Brother SE700 combo sewing embroidery machine. First of all, you actually got a printed manual. So you've got that. You've got an embroidery design guide. This actually shows you some bigger pictures of all the designs that are loaded on your machine, as well as the, does it have the, I think the stitches, the decorative stitches and the stitches on the sewing side are in the operation manual. You also get Design Database Transfer is a free app. You have a wireless machine. So your wireless machine just made embroidery a lot more fun. So Design Database Transfer is a free app you put, or a free program you put on your laptop or desktop. So if you buy a design from like Brother iBroidery or Brother, maybe from Etsy or maybe any other number of places where you can buy embroidery designs, you have a way to put them into the database transfer and send them wirelessly to your machine. And all you have to do is just go to the Brother site and you can download and install that program on your laptop or desktop. The other thing you have access to, which is so much fun, is the Artspira app. Artspira, where does it go? I'll just show you on my tablet. Artspira is a portable app that lives on your tablet. Oops, that's one of my creations. So if you go to the Home tab on Artspira, you'll see there's a number of different things that you can do with Artspira. There's two platforms. One platform is free. One platform is a paid subscription. But there's a lot of stuff on here for free. So you can see if I do new free embroidery designs, I can touch see all, and all of these designs that pop up are all available to transfer wirelessly to your new Brother embroidery machine. You also have the option of adding some of your own designs. Under My Creations, you can import external files if you choose external embroidery designs, or if you have a Scan-A-Cut, those files as well. There's a lot of features on the Artspira app that are unpaid features, and if you think that you have outgrown the unpaid features, the subscription will add some more editing tools that you might find are all you need to create just the thing you want to create. So two ways to get designs to your machine. One is via the Artspira app. One is via the My Design Database Transfer. You also have a USB. So if you want to just keep everything simple and just plop it right on a USB and stick it into the side of the machine, you can do that too. You also have an option with the Brother machine as for iBroidery, which is a download library. They do have Disney designs there, but they have a lot of other designs as well. So those are licensed designs that are available only to Brother customers. All right, the other thing we have is here's your quick reference guide. So in the quick reference guide, it's going to get you started with all of the basic things that maybe I don't get you started with in your class right out of the box. So like winding a bobbin, connecting to your wireless network, threading the machine, the sewing, basic selecting sewing stitches, the decorative stitches, and preparing to do embroidery. So all in all, right out of the box, you get a nice selection of literature, all printed, that will get you started in embroidery. The other thing that's in the box is there's a cover for your machine that you can put over it when it's not in use. You get a 4x4 hoop. This also has available but not included a smaller hoop you can find that on the accessory guide in the back of your owner's manual. Will tell you if there's other hoops. The largest continuous hoop is the 4x4, but you can connect designs with the 4x4 hoop. Let's see what's in this bag of goodies. All right, so this is another bag of goodies that's in the box with your machine. So you get a pair of scissors. You get a couple of different screwdrivers. You get one spool cap the middle size will be on your machine. This is a spool cap as well, this little gray thing. This little gray thing is designed to hold cones on the spool stand securely, like an embroidery cone, where you'd put this on the spool stand and then slip this end on the pin and into the spool of embroidery thread so that it keeps it secure. You also got a supplemental spool stand. This fits on your bobbin winding mechanism. And if you want to do like twin needle work, or you want to just run 2 strands of the same color embroidery thread through the eye of a single needle for some decorative stitching on the sewing side, you have a supplemental spool stand that you can use. And you get the seam ripper, of course, a cleaning brush, a thread net. So sometimes you'll get a spool of thread that doesn't want to stay on the spool and it needs a net to kind of keep it controlled. You got one of those. This is an eyelet punch. Your machine has the ability to stitch eyelets. This makes a great punch to punch the hole in that eyelet. I'll also tell you what it's great for if you have visions of doing like snap tabs or key fobs or things like that with your embroidery machine. This is the perfect size hole to punch to use a cam snap or other snap. And then you have 2 packages with needles. One package has a twin needle and the other package has 6 needles. 2 will be jersey, or 2 will be embroidery, 2 will be sewing, and 2 will be knit needle for sewing on knits. You get a power cord, the most important part, and you get a foot control, the most important part for sewing for some of us. And then this is your secondary bag of goodies. And this has all the supplemental feet that come with your machine. You get a buttonhole foot. This is the end foot. In our sewing lesson today, we will be utilizing the end foot. It's used for when we do character decorative stitches in the sewing side. The channel leaves some room for the stitching to pass underneath. This machine has a setting for sewing on a button. And this is the foot you can use to slide the button in place and then stitch the button onto whatever you want to sew it on. You have a blind hem foot, you have a rolled hem foot, and you have a zipper foot, along with 5 total bobbins. And the bobbins have a little bobbin keeper around them, which I really like because it keeps the bobbin thread from getting out of control. The thread wound on these bobbins, if they're pre-wound bobbins, will be for the embroidery side of your machine. As it says here, number 60. That means it's 60 weight thread. It's embroidery bobbin thread. We use a little bit different embroidery bobbin thread than we use when we are sewing. And all of your bobbins that are included here are reusable. So they're a class 15 bobbin. And a cute little baggie to keep all your stuff in. So that is what is included with your machine. Welcome back. Different view from our previous tutorial. This is going to be the sewing features and also how to thread your machine, how to wind a bobbin, how to take the tray table off, how to change the foot, and numerous other fun things. All right, let's start by talking about the spool cap, since we almost left off with that in the last episode. So, and now I have one of the actual medium-sized ones. These are the 4 sizes of spool caps that come with your machine. You always should use a spool cap on your thread. the spool cap always needs to be larger than the spool of thread. So even if it looks like this one might be okay, it's not okay. So you would always size up. All right. So you should always choose a spool cap that's larger than. So as you know, traditional sewing thread, there'll be a spool cap that fits, the top of the spool, but is a little bit larger than. That helps the thread to just keep flowing freely without getting tangled. So like if you have this size, you can see this one is not quite big enough. So you would just go ahead and bump up to the next size. All right. For embroidery thread or threads that are wound in a conical shape, they're like a little mini spool cone. That's the ones that you put the thread on the spool, and then you use this little mini gray one to slip on the spool stand into the hole of the spool. Now on this one, it won't fit in the spool. So I usually just put it on backwards and push it down. So at any rate, what we want to do is keep the spool of thread from bobbing back and forth on the spindle. Since I have thread on the spool right now, I'm going to go ahead and wind a bobbin. So your machine takes class 15 plastic bobbins, no metal bobbins, and no other sized bobbins. If it's just kind of sort of fits, it doesn't fit. So you can always put this the other bobbin up on the top next to a class 15 bobbin. If they are exactly the same, you can use it. If it's not, you can't. So there's no top or bottom, but there is a little notch that comes out of the side of the bobbin winder. So just put these bobbin on the winder and then twist until you hear that audible click. Let me do it again. Doesn't matter, no top or bottom. And it kind of depends on where in the cycle you are, how long you'll have to twist. But you will hear the click, and then you won't be able to twist anymore. And that ensures that your bobbin is on the spindle correctly and tight, and you don't have to worry about a wonky bobbin. So I'm going to grab myself some thread. On the top of the machine, you'll see there's a little hook here, and then you'll see two lines, one that's a dash line and one that's a solid line. The dash line indicates the path for bobbin winding. The solid line indicates the path for threading. But you will see that 1 and then 2 is right under here are the same for both. And then I'm going to come around the front of that hook and then grab the tension dial there. So let me zoom in on that. And I will do it one more time. So I'm going to pass the thread under this hook here, and then under here, because this is 2. And then I am coming around from the back side of that hook, and I'm going to hook it around the hook, and then around the front of the tension dial. And then that actually ensures that I have enough tension on my thread. Now that I'm through that tension dial, I'm going to come over to my bobbin and wind this around about 8 or 10 times. You also have 2 thread cutters down here at the bottom. It is important to cut that thread off using one of those thread cutters right there. It holds the thread in place, and then you're just going to bring your bobbin over to the bobbin winding spindle. And I didn't wake the machine up yet, so I don't have an orange light here. So let me wake it up. And you'll see that now I have an orange light. An orange light indicates that it is in bobbin winding mode, and it also indicates bobbin winding bobbin thread here. To stop, you can just push when you have enough, or if you just let it go, it will stop automatically. When you're done, push back. I think I'm going to wind just a little bit more because I want to do some decorative stitches with this. And then also your speed control here will work for speed control for winding a bobbin as well. That should be enough. All right, I'm going to pull it back, pull it straight up, and cut the thread. So if I look at that, the bobbin is the loop of my lowercase p. The thread is coming off of the left side of the bobbin, creating a lowercase p. So if I put it down on the bed of the machine, I have a lowercase p. The other side would be the number 9 or a lowercase q. But guess what? P is for perfect. So that's what I want, is I want the thread coming off of the left side of the spool. I'm going to open the bobbin door by pushing back here. It pops up for me. And then P is for perfect. I'm just going to slide it in and drop it in. Don't forget to catch here. And then follow it around. And then there's a cutter at that end. There's a little notch on here that's going to fit right in here. I put that in first and then press down. And my bobbin is loaded. All right. I'm going to go ahead now and just start threading in a couple of different movements of the camera so that you can see it clearly. So I still have 1 and 2 up here. So, and then optimally my thread is coming off the bottom of the spool. This is embroidery thread, so it's coming off the top, not the bottom. But if it was sewing thread, it would be coming off the bottom. It's still okay. If you can't make it come off the bottom, that's fine. And then I'm going to pass the thread there, and again, right under here. But this time I'm going to follow the framework of the machine to get down to my needle. Now, this machine has a needle threader that is relatively flawless. It works first time every time, as long as it's not bent. And the 2 major things that cause it to be bent are you changed the needle and you didn't push the needle all the way up in before you screwed the tightening screw, or your needle is not in the full upright position. So when you turn the machine on, the needle obviously will be in the full upright position. But 2 things happen also. If you look in here, if my needle's not in the upright position, look at my take-up lever. It just got hidden. So the same thing's going to apply. The one thing is going to solve all of that. And that is your needle down, needle up button. So if you do needle down and then needle up, your needle down here is in the correct position for the needle threader, and your take-up lever is in the correct position for you to thread the machine. I'm starting with my presser foot up. If I put my presser foot down, there's a little door in here that closes, just right in here. So I want it to be open to begin with. So I'm down at position 3. And I'm just holding onto the thread with my other hand at the top. I'm going to make this U-turn. And then as I come up, I'm going to make it a point to follow the framework of the machine. Even if I have to exaggerate. Because that means I'm going to catch that take-up lever. And then I'm going to come down. All right, at this point, I need to pass my thread. Oops, let's see if I can get that. I need to pass my thread behind this hook that is position 6 and finish threading. If my foot is up when I'm trying to do this, then I'm just pulling more thread down. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my foot, which is then going to tension the thread a bit. All right, so what I want to do is I want to put the thread behind my thumb there, and then I really exaggerate by touching the needle bar and then swiping over from right to left. And that gets that in there. And then I'm going to pass under here and across number 7. And you know that you're in the right position if your thread is tight in number 7. The last step is to use the cutter on the side of the machine to cut the thread. That's going to put my thread in, be the exact length that the machine needs to pull the thread to the back when I begin stitching. When I use the needle threader, I don't want to hesitate. I want to follow through. I want to press down all the way through, and look at what happens. It threads the needle. But if you hesitate, what happens sometimes is the thread falls out of these two places. So let me do that one more time. Let me raise my foot so I can get a little bit more thread here. I'm still behind number 6. I'm going to pass it under here, over number 7. The important part of number 8 over here of cutting the thread. My foot is down. My presser foot is down. I'm going to put my finger here, and then I'm going to follow all the way through to the bottom. No hesitation, and then it's going to thread my needle for me. So like I said, the only time it doesn't work is if it's bent. And if it's bent, we can fix it, but it's a trip to the store to do it. When you change your needle, make sure that you use your nail to hold the needle, and when you're screwing it in so that it's all the way up in the shaft there. And if you are get in the habit of doing needle down, needle up, to put your needle and your take-up lever in the correct spot. And that is winding our needle, or winding our bobbin and threading our needle. Wow. So we're going to start with going through some of the basic stitches that are on the machine. So across the front here, you have your stop, start, you have back stitch, you have needle up, needle down, you have thread cutting. Your foot lift is back here. You also have some really fun features on this machine that are going to make your sewing life much easier. So we have 2 categories of stitching. One category, the blue category, those are your utility stitches. Those are the ones that you'll likely use more often than anything else. You also have the other category, which is more of a golden category. Those are your decorative stitches. Those are the fun ones. The pocket here indicates that if you create something with using the decorative stitches, like you combine a couple of decorative stitches together and get something you really like, that you can actually save them to the pocket. The Wi-Fi signal indicates that this machine is a Wi-Fi model, and it should be connected to your home Wi-Fi. I forgot this. This is your speed control. So you can sew with or without a foot control, a foot pedal. But you can also control the speed that you want to sew by adjusting this, and then it doesn't matter if you push pedal to the metal. It's still going to go whatever speed you have it set to. This is go back or undo. This is a lock. This will lock everything on the machine itself. No buttons will work. To unlock it, you select it again. Down here, we would be accessing, in this case, all of our sewing stitches. And down here, we access our embroidery stitches. You cannot embroidery you cannot sew with the embroidery unit on, and you can't get to the sewing stitches with the for sewing, the embroidery unit needs to be removed from the machine and the tray table put on. Sewing, embroidery, machine settings. We're going to be looking at this in a minute. Q&A. So if you touch that, it'll say, okay, I don't remember how to thread the machine. I don't remember how to wind a bobbin. I don't remember what direction it goes in. Threading, getting the embroidery unit off and on, hooping. You'll see that there's 2 pages. This gets me to page 2, changing feet between the embroidery foot and the regular feet. And this one here is nice. It gives you, again, another QR code that you can scan to actually put Artspira on your phone or your tablet, because this little guy is wireless. It's the best thing. All right. We're going to start with some machine settings. So this dog-eared piece of paper is the personalization area of the machine, where you can actually set the machine up for certain things that in an environment that you really like. So if I touch that, right now it opened to page 3. I want to go back to page 1 because page 1 has some of the sewing features on it. So we're on this one where it says width control. Only have this turned on when you actually want to use it. So there is a section in your owner's manual that I was looking at that you can choose to adjust the width of your satin stitch on the fly, meaning that you can use this to just adjust the width of your satin stitch. So to do that, you would turn the width control on, and then that becomes width control and not speed control. When you're done, turn it off, because you don't get speed control back when you turn the machine off and on. Changes we make here in the machine settings will remain until we go in and change them. So you want to make sure that you leave that off. Fine vertical adjustment. Again, this is a feature that the boys tend to use in the service department to make sure that the timing between your needle going up and down and your feed dogs, rolling forward and back, creates creates a stitch that's acceptable. Twin needle. If you want to sew with the twin needle, you're going to pick your stitch first. Then you're going to come in and turn twin needle on. It will not let you pick a pattern to do a twin needle work with that it cannot sew. But you have to come in here and say, I want to sew it with a twin needle. And then it'll say, no, you can't do that one. Or yes, it's fine. That's page 1. Page 2. Initial position. This is one where most everybody prefers that when they turn their machine on, it starts in center needle position. That's really the only thing that we're doing with this. We're not changing anything about the stitches. We're not changing anything about the needle position in any other case other than when we turn it on. 3 is embroidery. So I'm going to go backwards because I think there's some things further back that I want to. All right. So there we go. On page 6, you'll see needle position up, down. You want needle position down on. It doesn't mean that it's going to stop with your needle in the down position when you get done sewing. What you're doing is giving permission for your pivot features to work, and we're going to cover those features in just a moment. But if you have that set to up, none of your pivot features will work, because think about it. In order to pivot or turn a corner, we want it to stop with the needle down in the fabric and the foot up so that we can turn. That's not going to happen if we don't let the machine put the needle down. So we want to make sure you have needle down, the arrow should be pointing down. The buzzer, off or on, and the opening screen off or on. So the buzzer, I would leave that until you're really comfortable with your machine. It's the only way the machine has to tell you something is amiss. The opening screen, you have the option of when you turn your machine on, you'll be seeing, the little pictures that cycle through, or you can turn that off and you'll just go directly to the sewing and or embroidery page. You also have a choice of languages, several of them. This is your light. You either have off or on, and input sensitivity. If you touch your screen and it responds, then the input sensitivity is perfect for you. If you touch your screen and it does not respond, you can start that, and then you can actually move the sensitivity from up or down, depending on what you need. On page 8, there's some important information here on page 8. Your service count and your total count. When you bring your machine in to be serviced, we reset the service count. We never touch the total count because it helps both of us. Number one, your total stitch count will always be there, inclusive of sewing and embroidery, but it also lets us know how long it's been in between your last service. This number right here, that's your internal machine number. If you're registering your machine on Artspira, then you will need this number to do it, and to get the PIN code to finish your registration with Artspira. And not the serial number on the back, the internal machine number. This is the version of your software. If you ever get one of those little warning lights with the Wi-Fi with a exclamation point on it, it means that there's something to be uploaded. So meaning an update of some sort. And it'll tell you in a subsequent page that your version is not at the most recent version. This restores everything to the default. So your wireless enable, you have to turn it on, and then all you have to do is do the setup wizard. When you touch the setup wizard, it's going to find every available internet hookup for you. Also, when you register to Artspira, if you have more than one wireless machine, you may want to name it something else other than Sewing Machine 889. Because if you have two machines and one's 889 and one's 887, you better know which one is which, I guess. So generally people assign them names. So 11 is check for updates. The latest version is available, and then it says the new update is installed. This is what you're looking for. The new update is installed. That means you're up to date. And then the last page is for Artspira. All right. So coming down, I think I got them all. Yep. All right. So these are the embroidery patterns that are built into the machine. You have a lot of them built in. You can buy embroidery designs from companies that put them on a USB for you, in which case you would use the USB port here. You can send wirelessly from Artspira. You can send wirelessly from your My Design database app. So how do you import a design? Right here. So if I go to import, I get 4 choices. I can save a design to the machine. If I'm working on something or I've created something and I want to sew it out again the second time, I can save it to the pocket of the machine. I can import via a USB. I can import via wirelessly via My Design Snap or My Design database app, or I can import wirelessly from Artspira. Artspira will also allow you to upload to Artspira up to 20 of your own designs at no cost. So you can always transfer from there as well. All right, let's look at some of the designs. Oops, we're not going to look at those designs now because we're sewing. Let's go back to sewing. All right. When I open up the machine here, my basic utility stitches are here. Also in your manual is a list of all of the basic stitches that are here. Note that this page is blue and these are utility stitches. When we get to the decorative stitches, the pages will be more of a golden color. All right, so let's say I just want to do some regular basic sewing. So your machine is set up so that it's going to help you to the best of its ability if you take advantage of that help. So right now, all I want to do is a straight seam. Now, green always means go, and it says go because I don't have a foot control plugged in. I think I'm going to grab a foot control and do that first. I just have a piece of muslin, a piece of fabric here, and I'm just going to do a couple of straight stitches. And then we're going to talk about what these guys do, what this is, and why these stitches look like that. So number 1 and number 3 have 2 dashes at the beginning, and number 2 and number 4 have a dot. And it does, so they're indicative of either a back stitch or a stitch in place. So I'm going to start just stitching as I normally would, and then we're going to turn on some of these features that make your sewing life much more fun. So I have 1-03. It's telling me here that I've got the J foot on, which I do. I can see that my needle is in the down position because if I want to use these, it has to be in that down position. It's also showing me a view of the stitch I have selected, but more than that, it's showing me the size. And that might not make much difference now, but if I'm using like a wider stitch or one of the decorative stitches, I want to know if it's, you know, how big it is. Over here, width, length, left, right, shift. So width of a satin stitch, of a straight stitch, obviously there is no width. It's a straight stitch. But 3.5 is indicative of center needle position. The length of my stitch is 2.5, which is a good average length. And the left, right, shift is at 0. So left, right, shift refers to the movement left or right of your needle. So let's say that I have a center needle position now, but I kind of like it to go over to the left or to the right a little bit more. This icon opens up everything that I can do to this stitch. So 3.5, let me hit it a couple times, and you see how that's moving. So it's moving my stitch over to the right. That puts it back in the center, that moves it. So when you have a straight stitch, the width is actually your left, right, shift. If you touch left, right, shift, it does the same thing. But this is a straight stitch, so you would not see that. If you had a decorative stitch, like a blanket stitch or something, you'd see the whole thing move. All right? This indicates that I have done something to this stitch that I really like better than the default. Black is the default. And it lets me save it. It lets me save it so I don't have to put it on every time. If I want to go back to the default, then I have to open this category up and return all of these to the default position, the black, and then I can save it to that as well. This will actually, like if I decide I want my needle over here, I want my stitch length short, and I saved it. So now I'm like, I really didn't want that stitch anymore. I can touch this, it restores everything to the default, but I still need to resave it. When you save in the utility stitches, it's going to keep what you saved it to, even if you turn the machine off and on. So if if it's not something you want, then you're going to come back in here and take everything to the default, or touch there and then save it again. All right, let's do some stitching. This down here is my sub-menu of what I can do with this stitch. I can have a single or continuous. I can start back at the beginning, or I can mirror image. None of which is going to do anything we're going to see on this stitch. So we're just going to close that for now. All right, so I'm just going to do a little stitching. So I have to put my foot down, and then I'm pushing my foot control. And I'm going to do some back stitching. I don't know why that's so slow. Turns out I had a cord in between the foot pedal. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my back stitch and then touch my scissors. Notice that I did not have to stop the machine to do any of that. Let me do that again so you can see it again. So I'm going to start. This is just basic. I'm not using any of the buttons, any of the pivots. I'm going to do it myself. You do not have to stop. All right. But what if I want the machine to do it for me? So if I select my pivot features here, that means that when I get done stitching, I'm just going to tap, and the machine's going to stop and finish and back stitch for me. There it goes, back stitching by itself. There it goes, back stitching by itself. And cutting. And then I can lift and pull out. So let me do that one more time. So what I did, you have to make sure your needle is in the down position here. I have these two turned on. So if I start with a stitch that has 2 dashes at the back, that means it's going to do this task with a back stitch. If I'm piecing and I want to use one that just ties off, I want to touch this one. That's what the dot means. But I'm still going to just do the same thing, and that's tap right here. So here we go. Let's see how this works. I'm just going to keep my hands on the machines, on the fabric here, so you'll know I'm not pushing any buttons until I want to stop, and then I'm just going to tap that one. Forward, back. I want to stop. Tap. Back. Forward. Cut. Done. So, and much neater than mine because I had way more back stitches than was probably necessary. So that is your pivot feature. If I don't want to use it, I can just turn it off. So in this section of utility stitches, I have 5 pages, so I can cycle through. And if you are a piecer, you will like stitch 1-25. Why? Well, because it lets you use your J-foot to piece with. One of the things I love about my J-foot is it's probably going to be on my machine anyway. And the toe over here keeps contact with the feed dogs for a much longer period of time than my 1/4 inch foot does. So if I line up my fabric with the edge of my foot and stitch, then I get a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. And guess what? If you like a scant 1/4 of an inch and you're like, that's just too big, that's where this comes in. So I can take that 5.5 and I can move it over a little bit more. And then the same stitch is going to be just a little bit closer to the edge. Now, if that's what I like, if that's my kind of 1/4 inch, then I can go ahead and save that to the memory of the machine. So every time I choose this stitch, my choice is going to come up. This is on the blue category on the utility. If I'm like, oh, no, I'm done with that, I'm going to open my menu here. I'm going to change that back till it turns black, and then I'm going to save it. If I don't remember, I can always touch this icon and it restores everything to the default, and then I'm going to push that again. So now I've restored the default for that stitch. So if I go here and then I go here, it remembers what I did. All right, let's take a look at some of the other stitches in here. These are some of the decorative stitches. These are only going to be a small sampling of the decorative stitches. This one's kind of fun though. And you'll see that it actually asked me to change to the end foot. So let's do that since we're going to decorative stitches. With the decorative stitches, it often is going to ask you to put on the end foot, because remember that end foot has that channel underneath that lets stitches that have a lot of thread pass freely. So to release the foot, all I did was push this lever in the back of my my shank. And also keep note that you have an oval here that is the swing of your 7mm. You also have that same oval in most of the feet, since that's where the needle goes when it stitches. So if you line those guys up on the bed, you just have to put your foot down. I didn't get it perfect, I guess. There we go. And then push the lever in the back and you can get it easy to get it on. If not, nothing else, you can always just grab the toe, align it underneath there, and then just press up. And try not to get the thread caught. I think I'm good. All right. So let's see what we have under the submenus for this particular stitch. So this is telling me what the actual default of the stitch is. This down here tells me I can either mirror image it, which it's the same on, it's symmetrical, so there won't be anything on that mirror image. This lets me go back to the beginning of a stitch. So let's say I start sewing and my thread breaks. 20 stitches in, my thread breaks. So I stop, I go and rethread. I don't want to start that decorative stitch where the thread broke out. I want to start it from the beginning, so then I would touch this. If all I want is one candle wick, I can select the single versus the continuous. We're going to do continuous for a little bit. Now for these kind of decorative stitches, we do recommend that you use embroidery thread and not sewing thread. Embroidery thread tends to be a little shinier and prettier. And also that you use some stabilizer, which I have for the next. I have right over here when we go into the other decorative stitches. So there's that decorative stitch. Pretty. All right. Now this, you can still see I'm still at 100%. This little wavy piece of paper allows you to see what that looks like in real time. So if you have a stitch that says more than that, that's what the stitch look like. You can change the color if you want. This will move up and down if your stitch is too big to show in one. So this is where you would always see what the stitch looks like. This is where you can go out of that sub menu and back into your general stitches. This lets you know what you can do with it. This lets you know what the default is. All right. All right. You also have buttonholes and you have some darning and mending stitches. It's really a nice selection of buttonholes, and you just use your arrows here to arrow through the pages. You also have the ability to make a bar tack. This is a button sewing on stitch. In other words, you have a foot in your box that facilitates you being able to sew buttons on by machine as long as they have holes in them and they're not a shank button. And the button sewing foot holds that button steady, and the buttonhole, and you'll see it's the M foot, and the button sewing is just a zigzag. So what I normally will do with this, if I select that, is I will actually hand roll the wheel one or two times to make sure that it clears the holes of the button, and then I just pedal to the metal or push go if you're sewing without a foot control. And again, nothing really to see there. Right. Let's go look at some of these decorative stitches. I've changed to more a red thread for embroidery thread, and just so you can see it better in the video for these decorative stitches. And then also our little spool cap fits in the hole of that one, so it goes all the way down in there. I'm just going to thread really quickly here, and then I also grabbed a embroidery bobbin. So the embroidery bobbin thread is, let's do needle down, needle up. The embroidery bobbin thread is thinner than sewing thread, because the idea is that when you do embroidery, you don't want any of your bobbin thread showing through. Come on, go in there. So it just, when I do the decorative stitches, I kind of wish for the same thing. I don't want any of the bobbin thread to come to the top. So I kind of like having that lighter thread in there, just like when we do embroidery. And I've grabbed a piece of fabric with embroidery stabilizer. It's just a light tearaway. It just helps support the stitches so they look a little prettier. Okay, let's look at some of these stitches. So what's wonderful about these is that you can combine more than one stitch together. So when I touch this, it's going to ask me if it's okay to delete, because we can't combine from the blue category and the yellow category. But we can combine from within the yellow category. So this one has 3 pages. So, oh, that little crocodile's kind of cute. I'll put him on there. All right, so while I've got him on there, I don't want just one, I don't want multiple crocodiles. I just want one crocodile. So I'm going to go to my menu here, and oh, it already had selected one instead of multiples. So see how now I just have one crocodile, not multiple crocodiles. And then I'm going to select the undo so that I can go back maybe and pick another stitch. Well, maybe I want one from the other category. So now I'm going to touch category 6, and let's see what I've got in here. Oh, I only have 1 page. Let's go back. I'm going to go back to the crocodile for a minute, because I want to see what I can only do that. I can only mirror image him. I can go back to the beginning, or I can do one or multiples. All right. So my undo button will take me out of the categories. Don't push these because it deletes what's on your screen. So I'm going to go here, and maybe I'll select that one. And let's see what my choices are. So that one I can do in either regular or dense. In other words, you can increase the density on this one, adding more stitches. So I think I'll do that. And then let's see if I mirror image it. Nope, I like it better that way. And then I'm going to do undo and back. And then let's go into this category. And then let's pick that one. And let's see. Oh, with this one I can elongate. So maybe I don't want it quite that long. So let's do it like 2 instead of 3. And again, I can mirror image it if I choose to. And the last category is just some cross stitching. So let's see what's in there. I'll just stick one of those on there. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and stitch this out. The whole design now is just a single run of all the pieces that I put together. If I wanted it to keep going, I could go in here and now select the multiples. And what it would do is once it finished, it would start the same pattern over again. But I just want one. So I'm going to just put my foot down, which I did, and press go. Oops, let me unplug the foot control. And if you're looking at your screen, you'll see that one looks light and one looks dark. The one that it's stitching currently is the one that is the light color of blue. When it finishes that one, it'll go to the darker color of blue. So there's my little stitch combo saved or stitched out. So if I love it, I have a new way to save it. I can save it in the pocket of the machine. So this is a different save than the save that you have on the blue category. The blue category, it alters the default. In this category, it saves it into the pocket. And if we wanted to see up close what it looked like, that's how we would do it. We would push that, we'd be able to see all of them. Nothing here was changed to the default. And you can see that you actually can set the machine to actually tie off and cut the thread for you when you're done. Now, I have 4 patterns here. If I want to delete them individually, I can select delete. And if I only have 1 or 2, I'll usually do that. If I don't want to do that, I just push the category again, and it will cancel all of them. So let's see what's in that pocket. There's that alligator I just did. So if I touch it and say, oh yeah, I remember I did that, I'm like, I don't want to do that one anymore. So now I can just delete it out of the memory. All right, so those are some of your stitches. We're going to go ahead and head into embroidery.